Hey guys, Brian and Aaron here. We just rolled into the Chehalis RV Camping Resort, which is 1,000 trails here in Chehalis, Washington.
I think it's the first 1,000 trails.
Yeah, this is like the OG 1,000 trails. so we just rolled in here, and a lot of people have been asking how we set up our campground, how we break down, and all of that kind of day-to-day stuff on a moving day. So we just rolled in. The RV, we just backed into a spot that we fit in.
Easily.
But we haven't done anything else. We haven't done any leveling. We haven't opened the slides. We haven't unhooked the truck. We haven't done any of that stuff. So we're going to walk you through that process right now. First up, we use this app, LevelMate PRO. I will link to it in the description below. It's an app, and there's a sensor inside where when you turn the sensor on, it tells you how far off a level you are. Come on, focus. There we go. So it tells us that we are 3.75 inches down on the driver's side, 4 inches down on the driver's side, and then front to back we don't worry about until we're unhooked, because then with the tongue jack we can bring the trailer up and down. So we're going to go ahead and put down some of our leveling blocks here, and then we're going to back up onto them and we're going to see what the number reads. So let's go ahead and do that real quick.
So we use the Lynx blocks, these orange things, and they're kind of like Legos a little bit. They have holes in them where we can stack them together, and we usually end up making a pyramid when we want to come up a couple inches. We'll try this and see if it's enough. Sometimes we only need to do one level, sometimes two. The last place we were at, we had to do a 3-level pyramid. So we'll see if we can do just a 2-level pyramid today.
All right, what are the results?
So that brought us up, but we're still between 1 inch and 0.75 down on driver's side. So
our comfort level is kind of within half an inch up or down. Like you wouldn't think that half an inch or an inch even is a lot, but when you're only talking 8 feet from one side to the other, an inch is actually quite a slope.
Yeah.
So like when you're laying down in bed, you feel like you're kind of rolling, or when you're walking, you feel like you're walking uphill and downhill or kind of sideways. So
right.
We like to be within half an inch on the app. Either way, we actually kind of prefer to be a little down on driver for some reason. So we're going to let the GoPro keep rolling here, and we're gonna
manipulate things.
We're gonna kind of adjust ourselves in the sight here, and then next time we talk to you, hopefully we'll be level.
Yay! Alrighty, so after moving and adjusting where the trailer is in the spot, and then putting the pyramid underneath the wheels and kind of maneuvering a little bit on there, we are between 0.25 and 0.5. That top one. So
yep.
It kind of goes in between.
Right.
So that's our happy place.
Yep, and like we said, the bottom number, the front to back, it doesn't matter right now. This is just to keep this. So the thing we really like with the LevelMate PRO is it keeps us from hanging in the door, putting down a level, and doing that and kind of eyeballing and stuff, because we've put down the level before in the front hallway, and depending on where it sits in the hallway, it shows you something different. Right. So at least this is consistent, and we know what numbers on here we're comfortable with. And also all that rocking back and forth is kind of abnormal, but the entrance to this side up here where the truck is on a slope. So every time I would put it in park and take my foot off the brake, it would kind of settle back into the gear, so it would roll back. So we figured out how far to go, foot off the brake. We're right on top of the pyramid now, so we're happy. So now we're going to start, we got to get unhooked from the truck, yes. And then we're going to put all the stabilizers down. And let's just be honest here. The next step after getting the rig where it's supposed to be front to back is to get the kids out, because unless they're having a really good day, they get really antsy as soon as the truck stops. So we kind of find a spot for them. We've got a bunch of like outdoor toys, like sand toys. So we just kind of plop them down and let them play while we get the rest of the stuff set up before we can head inside.
So our first step here is we get our 2 big blocks of wood and put them underneath our tongue jack just to kind of give it a head start with coming down. And so we'll do that. And then we're gonna put it down. There out any of the rocks under it so it gets a nice spot to be.
And normally while she's doing that, I'm not filming. So while she's doing that, I am hooking up the power cable because the tongue jack and the landing gear and all that stuff, they run on electricity. We do have a battery, and of course we could run it off the battery, but I don't see a reason to do that because I have electricity right here behind me. Okay, so we have a 50 amp trailer, but this is a 30 amp site, and that is not a problem because I have an adapter, it's called a dog bone, that goes from 50, which is 4 huge blades, or 3 blades and the ground, to 30, which is 2 blades and a ground. So I'm going to put this on the end of my cable here and then plug it in here, flip the breakers on, and then I have a surge guard on here that tells me whether or not the power is good. We've run into problems. We've been to, I think, 2 campgrounds now where I've had red lights on that, which means we have to move. So hopefully this one will be fine. It should be, so I'm going to go ahead and hook that up now. And also, whenever hooking these things up, you always want to make sure the breaker is off. We've only been to 1 campground where there is not a breaker. It's just like a breaker in your house, like in your garage or your utility room. It's a breaker like this, down is off. So you make sure it's off before you hook up your power. Make sure it's seated all the way because a loose connection is a bad connection. So now we flip it on and I can check my lights. And I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but everything is green. So green all across the top, green on the bottom. So we've run into reds here with neutrals reversed and all that. That's not good. So now that I know this is green, I turn the breaker off because I'm going to be hooking up the other end to the rig. So breaker's off, I leave all this as it is, and then I bring the cable out to the rig. All right, now this kind of connector, I don't know what it's called, but I never encountered one before owning an RV. It's this big guy here. It just goes in kind of off center, and then you twist it and you screw it on. That's it for that. So now we go back over here and flip the breakers on. All right, so now we're gonna go back over here to the tongue jack and do the rest of the disconnection. Okay, so with the blocks down and the power on, now we can run the tongue jack down. So it's a little wobbly, but the trailer's heavy enough where it'll kind of squish everything out. So we hold the thing down. It's loud. All right, now I'm going to stop real quick so you can hear me because this is pretty loud. So down here where the receiver goes into, or sorry, where the hitch goes into the receiver, there's a gap on the top, which means there's weight on this system here. So what I do, so I know how high to come up before I can start messing with the bars, so I just watch that gap. As soon as that gap fills up, that means the weight has come off of the truck and the tongue jack is actually starting to lift the back of the truck, which is where I stop. Okay, so now that that gap has been filled, I know that all of the weight is off of the truck, and the tongue jack is actually, the tongue jack is actually lifting the rear of the truck up. So now I'm going to disconnect the trailer electric, and then the breakaway cable, and the chains. And Erin always does the chain on her side.
Done.
This is called a Husky Center Line. This is a weight distribution and sway control hitch. So what happens is these bars here, as you're driving around, the bars help push the weight towards the back, which helps distribute everything, and also because they are solid bars, it helps a lot with the side-to-side sway as you're driving. But it's a little bit of a pain to, put on and take off. So with the weight off of the truck, these bars can now be taken off. And you saw that one over there was kind of loose. If it's not loose enough, we got this tool here that helps you kind of pry it off. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. I will do my side and then Erin will do her side. Oh, and there's this little aluminum bracket here that keeps the bar from popping out over these pegs while you're driving. Because when you turn really tight, like if I turn really tight to the driver's side, this bar is gonna slide in really far and get loose. And if I didn't have that pin sitting here holding it, it could actually pop out over top of this and then everything goes crazy. So you always wanna make sure that these are there. And when we take them off, we make sure we put the little cotter pin here, and then when the bar comes off, we immediately put those back here so we know where they are. So now I'm gonna pry this guy off. You just kind of set it under here and use a lever up like that. And then I saw another guy on YouTube who was reviewing this thing who had a really good tip. Instead of trying to do this and like getting yourself way down into the ground, you just take this, hook it on here and push. Watch out, buddy. You wanna help? Gotta lift it. Okay, see, you gotta lift it with Ben's power and it pops right off. So now with that loose, there's a what's called a safety pin. You just pop it out of here. I'll show you. That's not a good angle. It's one of these guys here. It just goes through and just keeps that bar from sliding out. So that is in there. This big old bar slides out, and like I said, we store all of our hardware immediately. So the pin goes back in here, and we just lay these under the front. And then I put the bracket back in immediately, and I put the pin in the bracket so I don't lose it. So now this side is done. So now we're gonna do Aaron's side, and then we'll talk about how we get off the ball.
Okay. I didn't need to use the tool since I'm uphill. So, I'm gonna take my pin out. Oh, and these bars are not light. Put it back together, make this underneath. Now done.
All right, so now that we have the bars off, we have to get the actual rig off of this ball so we can get the truck and the trailer finally disconnected. We use a hitch lock, partially for security, although I don't really think anyone's gonna come and steal an entire RV. However, it is also a nice peace of mind because this will not come out of there. If that came out while driving, that would be bad because then that whole system can work itself loose and then you can pop off the ball. So I recommend using hitch locks for security, but mostly for peace of mind while driving. So now this is ready to go. So we need to get the weight back onto the truck because the way that this bracket works is it's got a little shovel-shaped hook that hooks under the ball. So we need to get that down so we can pull it out of the way. So I'm gonna watch this gap again. And as I run the tongue jack down, that gap is gonna reappear. After it has reappeared, I know that the weight is back on the truck, and then I can undo the tongue ball lock. All right, so the gap has reappeared, and I had my elbow on the bumper of the truck too, so I can actually feel the truck start to go down. So now that the weight is back on the ball, I can open this, and now you see this little kind of shovel-shaped thing. It actually cups the bottom of the ball to keep it in this coupling here. So now that this is open, I have to go back up. Coming off that ball was not as clean as we like, and that's actually because we forgot to put these down. These are just big, chunky rubber tire chocks that we would put down on the tires that are not on the levelers. Without these on there, and because we're not on a level spot, what happened is when it starts to come off of the truck, the trailer actually rolls back just a little bit more too, which is obviously not a good thing. So we were distracted because we're filming this for you guys. That was our bad, 100%. So we're gonna go ahead and put these down so it doesn't move anymore, and we're okay. But always remember, try not to get distracted while doing this. We thought, you know, we've done this 58 times, we were good. You never know, man. So we're gonna go ahead and put these down and then we'll continue with this process up here. So back up here, wheel chocks are down, we're good to go. So now we are disconnected from the truck, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this back together. So we want that down, and then I put the lock back on it.
We just moved the truck. We always like to do that as soon as possible so we're off of the road so other people can get by and we're not holding up traffic. Today we're going a little slow, so it's a good thing that we're on a quieter road. Normally when Brian is moving the truck, I am leveling front to back with the tongue jack, and so we use the same app we had before. Saying right now we're 11.5 inches up. so we need to come down quite a bit. So I just watch this and see how far we can come down. Now we are going to put the X-Chocks on the wheels to stabilize us more, and then we'll put the stabilizers down to stabilize us even more, and then we can open up the slides.
So this is an X-Chock. What this does is it goes between the wheels because you have tandem axles, which means you have two axles with wheels close to each other. So this goes in between, and then you crank it down and it opens up and it grabs onto both tires. So as you're inside walking around, without these, the tires can kind of roll like this. But with this in place, the tires are opposed to each other, so they can't roll at all. So we're going to put this down, crank it down with the tool that it comes with, do it on the other side, and then we'll do the stabilizers. So like everything else that we're working with here, I'll have links to this in the description down below. We really like the X-Chocks because when we've not used them, like when boondocking in a Walmart parking lot, you can really feel the trailer kind of swaying. So with these on there, it just kind of locks it down nice and tight, and we really like them.
Once Brian has the X-Chocks on, then we can put the stabilizers down. We use the link blocks, the same ones we use to do the leveling on the other side, to kind of go under the stabilizers so they don't have to come down as far. Okay. Go ahead. We also put the temperature gauge sensor outside, right underneath our leveling blocks, or the stabilizer blocks, so we remember to get it when it goes, and it's usually in the shade that way too, so it can give us a better read on the temperature.
When putting the stabilizers down, we also use the leveling blocks to raise the level of the ground, because the way that they kind of scissor down, and you really don't want them coming down more than like a 90-degree angle in the bracket that comes down and the leg that goes to the ground, because then you're really not going to be stabilizing anything. So in the front here, not a big deal. We couldn't go down very far anyway. In the back, you might be able to see it. It'll come down a lot farther, and that's where we don't want it to go too far, because then it won't have any like strength to keep things from moving around. This angle right here is what I'm talking about. From here to the bar that brings it back up. We don't want to go past 90 degrees. We want to keep it a, what's the geometry term? Is it acute? I want to keep it as an acute angle, because then it's just a little stronger. When it's a nice day and we're getting set up, Vector just hangs out in the truck. It's about 60 degrees right now and we're in the shade, so he's perfectly happy, perfectly comfortable, not too hot, not too cold. And the reason we leave him in here, because we do have a lead that we can tie him up to, but he doesn't like it. He's not an outside dog, so he just kind of hangs out. Hey there. Hi. Hangs out in the truck, and then when everything's ready and everything's opened up, we bring him inside. All right, so this is an RV door. It's a little different from a residential door. So I've got there's a grab bar here that doubles as a lock to keep this door secure during travel. So you just kind of lift it up and swing it out of the way. A couple locks. And now the door is open. There's also a screen door on the inside that has its own little handle here. And then when you're using the screen door, this slides and closes and operates as the handle. But for right now, we're going to leave that hooked up. And the stairs just kind of fold out of the bottom. 1, 2, we've got a little boot scrubber thing on the bottom there. So that's it. Now we're open. Now Erin's going to go inside and run the slides out. And while she's doing that, I'll show you what they look like as they come out.
We can't get in and out of the living space until we open this slide. Oh, here we go. And we want to go slide out. That slides out, the first big slides out, and we have 3 slides, and you can kind of see that the living room is now out. We've piled some stuff up for travel today, but the kitchen is still in. You can kind of see that here. The kitchen slide is still in, and so is the bunkhouse. So the bunkhouse gets pretty small. We have some drawers that opened up. while they were in there. That's okay. The controls for the other two slides are in a different place. They're in kind of our control panel in this rig. So you can see here is where I did the first slide, and then the other slides are all part of this area. You got slide 1 is the kitchen, slide 3 is the bunkhouse. So I'm gonna open up the bunkhouse and you guys can watch. See how the bunkhouse moves. And next we'll do the kitchen. Here we go. And now all the slides are out.
All that's left now is for me to hook up the water. This site does not have sewer, so I'm just going to have to show that to you in another episode. Probably going to do a whole episode about black tanks and my experience with them after, you know, we've been on the road for 6 months and we've been we're coming up on 60 campgrounds now, so I've hooked that thing up and unhooked it a lot, so I have a lot to say about it. But for right now, I'm just going to hook up the water. And before I do the water, I want to talk to you about my water hose. This thing is literally a life changer. It is the 0G hose. It is not one of these white kinkless hoses. It's this. So it comes in a bundle. It's really loose and floppy. I can wrap it up around my elbow. I don't have to fight with it. It just goes where I put it. Anyone that's dealt with one of these white RV court or anyone that's dealt with one of these things knows how much of a pain in the rear they are. So after I found out 0G hose, these only come out if I'm really far away from my water source. Right here, I'm about 10 feet away, so we have plenty of the 0G hose. So I'm going to go ahead and hook that up real quick. Oh, also real quick, always use a water filter. It's this blue guy, and a pressure regulator, which is this brass guy right here. So mine froze at one point, so now 0 is 20, but this one has a dial on the top. You can adjust it with a screwdriver. I had it set to about 45 psi, which is what I've read is recommended. So now when it gets water going through it, it shows about 60, but I know that that's my 40-ish. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook this up to the spigot here, and then hook up the hose and plug in the rig. I always do a Y splitter up on the spigot, so I have manual control here, and also we have a black tank flush that I can hook up to the other side whenever we can use that. Not really applicable to this campground, but I just leave this on here. It's got a little tension relief hose. Those come with the filters, and then I've got my pressure regulator before the filter, and then I've got the filter, and then we're gonna have the hose coming from here out into the rig. So let me go ahead and hook this up. In here I've got this little flappy dude here, and I can get straight out to the outside down here. So I just feed my hose up through there, and I actually like to prime my hose to get all of the water out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the spigot now, and these are in the locked position, so I'm going to get the water flowing. Make sure there's water. So now I'm gonna run the water through the pressure regulator, the filter, and the hose up to the rig over there, and as soon as the water starts coming out that hose that's dangling out, I'm gonna stop it. Now the reason I prime the hose is because that's 25 feet of air that I don't want to shove up into the rig. It's probably not going to damage anything, but I don't want to risk it, so I prime it through there before I hook it up. So now there's only, you know, a couple inches where it's dangling. So then when I go inside, there's not a lot of like sputtering and water jackhammering and all of that. So I'm just going to hook this up to my inlet and done.
That's how we set up when we get to a new place. The kids are eating lunch.
Corn dogs.
Yay. We're going to fix some lunch for us. So we'll catch you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Visit us over at 5togo.com, and we'll see you down the road.
Bye.